have a seat so we can get going. And Jim Harvey says for me to get a hold of this meeting and get it going. So we will do that. We want to first of all excuse Dawn. She, I believe, is in Disneyland with her grandkids or kids or.
Mayor Ramsey is at an even more important meeting. She's with her whole family and her grandchildren at Disneyland right there. So she can be excused, I think.
On that. So we'll do that. So I've been asked if I would chair here the meeting again. Today's Thursday, March 28th, and it's a little after 1:30. And obviously our goal is to be through before 3:30 as far as that goes. So that's if we can get Jim Harvey to be quiet, we should be okay. So.
Well, that's impossible.
So. Look.
We're just thinking about going to Disney.
So, well, if you want to go to Disneyland with Jim Harvey, good luck. So, okay, we need to go around the room and introduce ourselves. Let's start right there.
Rosie Hernandez, Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Jordan Chandler, WFRC.
Ted Knowlton, Deputy Director, WFRC.
Carlton Christensen, trustee for the Utah Transit Authority.
Joy Petro, Layton City Mayor.
Rob Daly, Holiday Mayor.
Christy Overson, Taylorsville Mayor.
Mark Shepard, Clearfield Mayor.
Brandon Stanger, Clinton Mayor.
Beth Holbrook, trustee, Utah Transit Authority.
I'm Andrew Gruber. I'm Executive Director here at Wasatch Front Regional Council.
Bob Stevenson, Davis County.
Jeff Silverstone, Mill Creek Mayor.
Troy Walker, Draper Mayor.
Lee Perry, Box Elder County Commission.
Jim Harvey, 4 seats removed or 5 seats removed from Andrea Pearson.
Ben Nadolski, Mayor, Ogden City.
Bob Dandoy, Roy City.
Cal Musselman, Utah House.
Ben Hewitt with UDOT.
Laura Hanson, Governor's Office of Planning and Budget.
Nando Maley Stockton.
Andrea, would you please introduce yourself?
Andrea Pearson, WFRC.
Thank you very much.
Miranda Jones Cox, Government Affairs, WFRC.
Hugh Van Wagen and all things Bike Ped, WFRC.
Wendelin Knobloch, Midvale City.
Byron Head, Community and Economic Development with WFRC.
Wayne Benyon, Short Range Planning, WFRC.
I'll stand up. Luke Kramer, UDOT Commissioner. I'm here because my grandson is from Washington, D.C., shadowing me today, and I want to see how the real world works. And thanks for all you're doing.
So Harvey, that means you got to be quiet because don't make the wrong impression on him.
Cover for me, please.
Jackson Richards, University of Utah student and GIS intern with the WFRC.
Tim Watkins, WFRC Community Economic Development.
Marion Florence, Finance at WFRC.
Marsha White, WFRC Community and Economic Development.
Julie Bjornstad, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Staff and Long Range Planning.
Ben Withrich, Wasatch Front Staff, Short Range Plan.
Matt Ryan, WFRC Community and Economic Development.
Christy Dahlberg, Community and Economic Development, WFRC.
Jory Johnner, Long Range Planning Group, WFRC.
Ben Wood, City Weekly.
Bert Granberg, Analytics Team, WFRC.
Madison Aviles, Local Administrative Advisor, WFRC.
Kip Billings, Wasatch Front Regional Council staff.
I think that came from the end of the table down there. Jenny, you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yes, good timing. Jenny Wilson, Salt Lake County Mayor.
Andrea, do you want to, on the online?
Yes. Online today with us, we have Mike Newton, Ryan Beck, Nate Curry, Jeff Aserson, Monica Zoltansky, Chad Worthen, Gage Forer, Aaron Mendenhall, Mike Wykers, Shul Bishop, Dina Blaze, Wayne Harper, Michelle Larson, Mayor Fippen, Megan Townsend, Scott Wardle, Alexander Johnson, Ivan Marrero, Blaine Fackrell, Rob Vanderwood, Sarah Lawless, Kimberly Bell, and Susie Swim.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. Did we miss anybody online? If we did, maybe speak up and holler out and introduce yourself if you remember. Okay, we'll move down on our agenda to our consent item. We have on our consent, we have the minutes for the meeting that was held on January 25th. Also the financial statements and check registers from December 2023 and January 2024. And then the budget expenditure report that was talked about. Look for a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chair, Jeff Silverstone, I would make a motion to approve our minutes for January 25, together with the financial statements and check registers for December and January of 2023, 2024, and the budget expenditure report.
Second by Mayor Petro. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate that. Both mayors on it. We also want to welcome Mayor Dirk here. Appreciate you. So we'll now move down.
I also saw Cameron Deal from the League of
Oh, did
Cities and
Cameron
Towns
come in?
sneak in. Welcome,
Well, that's
Cameron.
like we've got a lot of important people here. So we'll move down to the chair's report on that. Again, we're all very, very happy that the legislative session has been over now. Time flies. It's been almost a month. And we're not only happy about the fact that it's over, we're happy about a lot of the results that took place with them. And we've got Cal here to be able to spend a few words. And we're hoping Wayne will be online with us also as far as that goes. In fact, why don't we take a second, and Cal, you want to go first and discuss a few things for us?
Yeah, I suppose I'll just talk most specifically about the fizz, and then we can, if you have questions, I can answer them. Or Andrew, if you have some other thoughts you'd like me to give some detail on as for the, the general atmosphere of the session. And otherwise, I'm glad to go into that a little further. I don't want to chew up too much of your time, though.
Representative.
Yeah.
Thank you. That sounds great. And can I just, as a reminder to everybody, Representative Musselman and Senator Harper are members of the Wasatch Front Regional Council, appointed by the Speaker and the Senate President. And I would just say, as a preface to their comments, that they were both wonderful leaders during the session and partners to WFRC and to cities and counties and transportation agencies. We spent probably more time together than any of us would have liked to, but got a lot of important things done. So representatives, with that context, please.
Sure. Yeah. And if Andrew, you want to jump in anywhere, and or Cameron, we worked a lot together on, most specifically, the first time home buyer investment zone with Cam and Andrew. So they have a pretty intimate knowledge of the details and the process as it developed and went forward. And I know many of you have already heard it. So I'm going to be repeating some of the things, but I'm going to go over it anyway, just given that some of you may not have all the history there. So quickly, as it started, there was some direction that was given both publicly and privately that the governor would like to do more and bigger moves as it pertains to affordable housing. I also had some direction, as well as Senator Harper, from both the Speaker and the President on how it should go forward. So with that direction, we worked directly with the League of Cities and Towns and of course, Andrew, on developing the fizz. That being said, I want to give credit to Rob Jolly and some others that were involved from the very beginning to kind of coordinate all those involved, which was lenders and builders, developers. All those contacts had to have input, or if only one part of all the parties that were involved were directing it, it wouldn't be a product that would be usable for all parties. So in the very beginning, Representative Schultz, or excuse me, Speaker Schultz, was very specific about not wanting it to be dictatorial. The cities had the options, give them as many tools as possible and tools that we believed would incentivize them to move forward with different types of development that could incentivize single-family detached affordable homes. There's a lot there. That was a hard needle to thread. But we think instead of trying to reinvent the wheel by looking at the HDRZ model, we simply took that model and worked it 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 till we landed where we think it's a product that the cities will want to use, the developers will want to use, and just as importantly, that lenders will want to lend in order to make a project going forward. I didn't realize how important that was in the process, just because you have a developer that wants to do it and a city that wants to do it. If a lender isn't willing to, doesn't recognize the value of it, then it doesn't matter. So with that, very quickly, you have the, similar to HRZ, you have a zone that a municipality could identify and or a developer could bring to the city for their consideration for rezoning that could be zoned for these, for this, policy or directive. You would use tax increment to finance, quote unquote, that which could contribute to the development or that which the city needs and for the development to go forward in infrastructure. The city would control the purse strings entirely. So, but there still has to be a development agreement, right? So you work with a developer or it might not go forward, it probably wouldn't go forward, but nevertheless, the city controls the purse strings. Secondly, I think it's important to recognize that the incentive to do single-family detached structures made it difficult because in order to put single-family detached structures in a small zone, like a 100-acre zone, you chew it up very quickly, and the incentive to have retail and or business or commercial in it gets chewed up as well. It just doesn't work. And so the key factor was to allow, it's a 30 units per acre. I think it's 30, right, Cam? 30? Yep, 30 units per acre. In order for those units to come down in density, which we think many municipalities will want that because it lands easier with their constituents, the developer, in agreement with the city, will have to do single-family detached homes on a 1-to-1 ratio off-site. So if they want to go from 30 units to 20 units, then they got to do those many units off-site in single-family detached homes. Now, I want to make one thing clear. The governor actually said in ceremonial signing this morning that they would have to be deed restricted. That's not necessarily so, right, Cam? They wouldn't have to be deed restricted, although there is some verbiage in the language that would lead a city to maybe want to do that, and that's up to the municipality to do or not to do, whether they want to deed restrict and or however they want to do the zonings as it pertains to short-term rentals. So I already feel like I'm going on too long though, Andrew. So
no, please represent.
We also recognize that it's going to have to go, there's a reason that this body was involved, and that is transportation. And although it's not as strict, obviously, as what's required under the HDRZ, there still would have to be some planning as it pertains to transportation and tying in these developments in transportation, and all of the approvals would have to go through the same process as the HDRZ model process would have to go through with some actual additional tweaks. I think the key thing that I'll leave this, because clearly when you're using tax increment, there's going to be some pushback from specific groups, and that would be school districts and maybe counties. The key is the but-for analysis. It's in the HDRZ, it's in the FIZ, and I think it just somehow it just gets passed over. I'm going to overly simplify it. I recognize this when I say this, but if you have a current zoning, and then there is the what's planned for by the city in their master plan, and let's say that was, say 5 units per acre or 6 units per acre, the but-for analysis would allow, but for this occurring, there would not be that tax increment difference. So those tax increments or those tax districts would be made whole as for what they are getting and what they would get under that master plan. But so the difference in taxes would only be that difference on top of that that would be used by the municipality, but for the development going forward. And I've heard some statements that say, well, they would have done this anyway. And I hear that, but I'm just going to finish by saying we have 4 to 8 examples of HDRZs that didn't exist, and now they do, and it's because of the HDRZ zone. So with that,
Are there any questions for the representative? So, Representative, if there's one thing I'd like to add is, first of all, you have our ear anytime, and you got our ear as long as you want to take on that. You are our representative for this board and this organization, and this is a very important group of all of us, and we appreciate everything you do, and we'll always appreciate everything you do. So thank you on that. Let's turn now, yes.
I don't have a question about his statement. I just want to say thank you for working with us. As we work together, we can accomplish greater things. And when we did that and we build these bills together and work together and make this happen, then all of us come out ahead because we have the same goals. And when we put the goals together, we can do it. Thank you.
In fact, you can have 2 donuts if you want over there, and no one's going to make a big deal about it. So,
I ate too many donuts over the previous 45 days, so I'm trying to lay off.
So, okay, well, let's turn to Senator Harper. Senator, you online there? We're looking for him here.
Senator Harper, you look like you're talking. I can't read your lips. Do you do sign language?
Yes, Senator, for some reason, we're not hearing you, although it does not appear that you are muted. Maybe, Mr. Chair, can I see Senator Harper is attempting to work through the technology. Perhaps we could, as he's doing that, shift to Miranda.
Okay.
And then we can, as soon as Senator Harper is able, Senator Harper, you just shout out whenever you get connected, and then we'll turn back to you.
All right, perfect. Yeah, Senator, just let us know and feel free to jump in at any point. We'd love to hear your perspective as well on the legislative session. So thank you, Representative Musselman, for that little primer on SB 268. We'll get into a few other pieces of legislation, but just want to echo our thanks and support to Representative Musselman and Senator Harper for the work that they did up at the legislature this session. And then also to those of you who are also very engaged and involved members up there, supportive of the work that we're doing and our other partners as well. So we just appreciate the good work that happened. It's been like 4 weeks.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Why don't you?
Okay. I had to change devices because the one was not working. I could hear, but I could not speak. But I want to thank Representative Musselman for his good works and Representative White as well. Representative Musselman jumped in, completely headfirst into this in order to get a lot of stuff done. He's a great partner. I think one of the great things that we can say from this session is local governments got more tools in order to go through and deal with the need for housing, affordability, and the inspiring the dream of most people in the state. So we ran a couple different bills. We had House Bill 208, which is the HTRZ. And somebody said, well, if you did the fizz and the hops, what are you going to call HTRZ? Are you just going to call it the Hertz bill? I said, no, doesn't hurt. But anyway, we've done 4 different HTRZs now, and I want to express my appreciation to everybody as we go forward. There are lessons learned and good things that are being done. In Salt Lake County, Rob Jolly, Wasatch Front, UDOT representatives were especially helpful in refining things to improve the but-for test, to go through and add a couple more people onto the boards, to go through and refine what tax increment can be used for, to increase the requirement of affordability from 10 to 8% of in the housing percentage, at least 12%, have to be affordable units. And then we went through and took a look at some of the great things that can be done with that and made sure that it was working for not just Salt Lake or Utah counties, but it'd be eligible for others. It was a great team effort. And I think going forward with the cities and the counties and everything, and recognizing the huge investment that cities, counties, and the state have put into transit and into transportation, there's going to be a lot of good things coming out of this as we go forward in order to provide the housing opportunities and options that people need. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm open for any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions anyone would have on that? No, there's no questions we know, but Senator, one thing again I'd like to say is thank you for all the efforts. I mean, there's no question you've been a friend of the Wasatch Front for a lot of years, and the things that you've been able to support and fight for us are very, very appreciative. And again, it's showing throughout especially the Wasatch Front areas with all the things that you've done, and you're stretching further into rural Utah, and that's actually really, really cool. So thank you from all of us as far as that goes.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Commissioner, can I add very briefly, first, I want to express appreciation also for Senator Harper, who is not only, I think now Senator, the longest serving member of the legislature. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
And also this year, the most prolific member of the legislature in terms of the number of bills he was able to pass. And just working so much with Senator Harper over the years, the level of detail and knowledge he has across many topic areas is really kind of mind-boggling. And I would just add to that he's the incoming president of the National Conference of State Legislatures. So he's a very busy person and representing all of us well. So Senator, thank you so much. I want to come back really briefly to something that Representative Musselman was saying about the housing and the housing choices, the centers that the HTRZ tool enables, the centers that the FIZ tool enables are very consistent with the Wasatch Choice vision. The vision that we all have developed together, recognizing that there are city and town centers within each of your communities that can be the hearts of your communities. But sometimes it's challenging to work through the development issues, to get the financing done. And both of these tools will enable your communities to make it more likely to make the centers come to life that you want to have, and build upon the ones that you already have. And by so doing, we actually help take pressure off of some suburban and even rural areas. So it's not about telling anybody how to live. It's about providing choices to people in where they can live, types of neighborhoods, types of housing, types of transportation. So very consistent from the basic approach we're all taking together to absorb growth effectively and maintain great quality of life. So thank you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Hopefully you'll hang around with us for a little while here, but appreciate that. One thing I would just like to follow up real quick on is that, the legislature has given, and I'm speaking to all of us that have local authority, local leadership, is that the legislature has given us these tools. And if we don't use the tools, then we're not going to get anywhere. And I think that we all have to be very, very cognizant of the fact that, some of these things we have to make work. They're not just going to work. We have to make this stuff available and make sure that developers and people who want to come in, that we are welcoming them with open arms to say, if you'll help us do this. So that's just a suggestion. And hopefully we'll have some good stories to tell, next year at this time. So with that, Miranda, keep going.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thanks everyone for your input. It's really helpful to hear that perspective, and I echo what Andrew said. We're very appreciative of Representative Musselman and Senator Harper. As members of the WFRC, they really were not only prolific in the work they did this session, but also in being the cheerleaders, quarterbacks. I'm not good with sports analogies, but to really bring forward WFRC's legislative priorities, make them a reality through legislation. And so just again, appreciate your efforts there. We've talked about the outcomes from the session for a while now. It's been 4 weeks since the session ended. It doesn't feel like it's been a month, but as Senator Harper would maybe tell you, they're already looking at legislative interim, we're on to the next thing now. And so we're kind of finished wrapping up the session, what some of these outcomes were. And so we'll quickly run through some of these key outcomes just as a refresher of really where we ended up at the end of the legislative session. So with that, I'll quickly run through the appropriations that the legislature put towards transportation infrastructure. The first notable one was over $1 billion of both one-time and then ongoing investment, $330 million ongoing funding to the Transportation Investment Fund, or the TIF. So this is for roadway projects. This is a fund prioritized by the Utah Transportation Commission. And what's so notable about this funding is that maybe about the funding package generally is that we're on maybe year 4, maybe 4 or 5 of the legislature putting a significant investment into multimodal transportation investment. So over the past 3 or 4 years, we've seen roughly $1 billion each year going towards transportation infrastructure. This year wasn't an exception, as you can see here. So this funding was provided, and UDOT will ultimately be able to further program out additional funding in their transportation program. So Ben, feel free to weigh in if there's anything you want to say there. But second, very important, ongoing funding to the Transit Transportation Investment Fund, or the TTIF. The legislature has, over the past 4 years, put a lot of one-time money into transit projects specifically, but this is one of the maybe the first investments that is an ongoing investment into the TTIF for transit, specifically for commuter rail improvements, so to the front runner commuter rail system. But again, a very notable investment for the legislature to, again, prioritize transit year after year. A few other specific projects to note: there was $50 million for the Point of the Mountain transit stop. This is for the front runner commuter rail transit stop at the Point station. This is not for the other transit alternatives throughout the site. And then lastly, the legislature often or sometimes directs specific projects that they want to see funded. And so there's about $75 million in specific projects to various communities, quite a few in Salt Lake County, some in Utah County. And then additionally, there were projects like a transit facility for Cache Valley Transit District. So there's quite a few things kind of trickled in there. I will say that you could find some more information on what those projects were in our appropriations tracker, which Nate will drop into the chat, or that you can find on our website. So really another great year for transportation investment. And when you're looking multimodally, you think about, this year, in addition to the $45 million of ongoing funding for active transportation last year. And it really is a multi-year comprehensive effort for multimodal transportation investment. So I'll hit a few other appropriations. These are some appropriations for a few studies that WFRC will be involved in, along with a number of partners. The first, a power district transportation study. You all are likely aware of the proposed development in the power district in Salt Lake City, and not only looking at that, of the development itself, but of the transportation impacts. WFRC will be working along with our partners to ensure that what is being planned does so in a way that it enhances quality of life in the area and does not impact transportation challenges. And then second is a market capacity analysis. So this one is a little
Miranda?
bit, yes.
We've got Erin, I think, is on, Mayor Mendenhall.
Sure.
Why don't we see if she wants to give us a few comments about the power district and the
Sure.
transportation study taking place there. Erin, can you hear us?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I'll just make a comment with gratitude for the outcome of legislation that enables such a potentially transformative incredible investment on a giant piece of land that now can wrap its arms both around the power district itself and that approximately 90 acres that, as you know, fronts the Jordan River in a way that at this point does not yet engage with the river, but we hear from those development partners at the Miller Group and Rocky Mountain Power that that is their intention, and then also wraps its arm around the Fair Park District, which also could interface with the river and really hasn't ever in the Fair Park's history. So the way that that will be developed and the decisions made about that ended up being more inclusive of the city than the way the initial drafted legislation would have directed. And we're grateful for that as well. There's one seat on the authority for that area for Salt Lake City, either council member or the mayor's role. And so we'll be participating in this process, and just it's an incredibly positive and transformational opportunity for our west side. And that's something that the community has been wanting for a very long time. So we hope that we're grateful that if there is a path to land an MLB team, that it would be in Salt Lake City. And I think it preserves the greatest view in baseball that we currently have at Smith's Ballpark, but of the Wasatch Mountains from what right now is the Power District. It will be a phenomenal experience to go from our brand new airport to a Major League Baseball stadium, if that is able to come to fruition, on an existing tracks line and be basically equidistance between the international airport and the core of downtown on public transit. And where maybe you could even canoe up into Davis County.
Well, as long as you don't go all the way to Weber County, we're probably okay with that, so.
It's paddling upstream to get that far. So I think you're safe. Anyway, thanks for giving me a moment.
So, no, appreciate you, Aaron. You know, just again, real quick, a comment. I don't know of any time in my career dealing with this, which has been now 10, 12 years, that there's a closer organization than this with everybody around us, between even working with MAG, all of Salt Lake County, Davis County, Weber County, Box Elder County. It is actually really, really cool how close everyone's come to basically bring to what I consider to be some dang good stuff to, you know, the state of Utah. So appreciate you, and actually Jenny, I'll throw you in with the things that you guys do within Salt Lake City and Salt Lake County, because it's part of all of us as far as that goes. So thank you again. So.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Commissioner. And then lastly, just want to touch on another study that the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity will be leading out on, but that WFRC will be a key partner in that. And that's a market capacity analysis, which will really look at what development capacity is available in the market now, whether in infill redevelopment or new development, and how that aligns with existing transportation infrastructure studies and plans that we already have in place. So looking forward to seeing that work move forward, and Ted Knowlton on our team is kind of taking a key role in that. So we'll go quickly through a few pieces of legislation. Representative Musselman and Senator Harper already discussed some of these. So First Home Investment Zone Act, there's a lot of really good stuff here. I think Representative Musselman kind of shared a pretty good comprehensive summary of that. We do have WFRC resources around these bills that give a full summary if you're looking for a little bit more information. Similar to SB 208 that Senator Harper mentioned, this is the Housing and Transit Reinvestment Zone amendments. Those changes that he mentioned were included here as well. So I will just note that with those two specific bills, and Andrew kind of talked about this, but it really allows for the work we do here at WFRC to come to fruition, right? HTRZs tie together with station area planning work that your communities are doing with your transit stations, and allows for opportunities for development in those areas. And then now with the First Home Investment Zone Act for medium density city and town centers in your communities as well. And so really, again, providing communities with various tools to make these things come to fruition. So I'll quickly talk through two more two more bills. The first is House Bill 488, and this one is, I don't know, maybe calling it a bit of a doozy. There's a lot in this bill, and again, WFRC has a really helpful summary of what's included here. So I'll just kind of hit the high points of what it does. The first is that $45 million to the TTIF for commuter rail improvements was included in this bill. So that was where the piece of legislation it was included in. It also makes some changes to local option sales taxes, specifically to the Salt Lake County use or potential use of the fifth local option sales tax, expanding that use not from just transportation, but now to include public safety as a eligible use of those funds. It also expands the second quarter local option sales tax to public safety uses in 3rd through 6th class counties. And then there's a specific provision in there that would fund the 5600 West Side Express for in Salt Lake County, which our friends at UDOT, or sorry, at UTA were, have that need with that project. It also provided a number of specific projects out of the County of the First Class Highway Projects Fund. That was part of that $75 million legislatively directed list that I had mentioned. It creates a infrastructure bank out of the County of the First Class and funds, additional specific projects with the loan repayments from that fund. Again, a lot of really very intricate, specific things in here that we can share more information on. And then it adjusts funding going into the Cottonwood Canyons Transportation Investment Fund from a fixed percentage. So now that funding that was currently going in there will continue to grow over time. So a lot was thrown into this bill in the last few days of the session. And so if you're unfamiliar or curious about some of these provisions, we'd be, of course, happy to talk to you about any of that. Last specific bill we want to mention, House Bill 430, Local Transportation Services Amendments. This is maybe also referred to as the Transit Innovation Grant Pilot Program bill. So this idea we're giving some credit to Cameron Deal for this, as well as some of his city partners for coming up with the idea of how can we start to address some of these transit challenges we might have in our communities in an innovative way. And that idea kind of came out of the Unified Economic Opportunity Commission and ultimately landed itself into Representative Perucci's bill in its final form. But what it ultimately does is it allows for a set of municipalities to propose innovative ideas, pilot programs through a grant for specific transit service in their area, whether that's, a shuttle or a specific bus service to serve certain areas of their community. Our friends at UDOT graciously have taken the lead in this program to administer it, to ultimately be the ones ranking, prioritizing, and funding these projects in consultation with partners. But the way this grant program is funded is through local option sales taxes, 4th quarter local option sales taxes, fifth local option sales taxes if imposed, and then transportation investment fund. So there's a number of sources in which these projects can be funded. But I will note that it is limited. I think we have here about the 4th quarter really only provides about 6.5 million approximately. Fifth only about 3 million. And so it's, while we're really excited about this program, I think, it's good to note that, it's not a large pot of funding to go around, but really looking forward to seeing what maybe some of our communities come up with. And I think where all the transportation partners ultimately landed on this bill specifically is that we, of course, want to see more transit in our communities. We want to see, and we're happy to see the desire for more transit in our communities. And so that's one thing that we're looking forward to seeing. A few other bills that we considered maybe a priority bill during the legislative session that we'll just run through really quickly. HCR 11, it's a resolution recognizing the importance of cross-issue growth impact. This was I'd say, GOPB and WFRC kind of special, where the idea here is that it encourages our public sector, private sector, community partners to really look at all impacts of growth when making funding, programmatic or policy decisions, making sure that we're not looking at certain growth issues in a silo, because as we know, and as the Wasatch Choice Vision really embodies, is that all of these issues really are connected. SB 179, transportation amendments, another Senator Harper transportation bill. This removes a requirement for TTIF local match requirements for UDOT. So that's really positive change for our partners at UDOT in the transit planning that they do. HB 449, Pedestrian Safety and Facilities Act. This includes bicycle facilities when looking or when planning for pedestrian facilities in our roadways. Mayor Burton, I know you're a big fan of this one. It's a good bill. We're happy to have seen that one succeed. Yeah, Mayor, do you want to say something?
I'm just really glad that that one passed. That puts bicycles on the same safety status as other pedestrians.
Yeah.
The one that didn't pass is the one that says I have to have two hands on the bicycle. That one said I can't take my hands off while riding a bike.
Yeah.
We need to work on that for next year.
We can talk more about that for sure. State grant process amendments. This one is not so much the bill itself that we're most interested in. It ultimately created some new reporting requirements for local governments, for all entities receiving state granted funds. Ultimately, or preliminarily, the bill would have not allowed for local communities, MPOs, local partners to receive state granted funds. And really just want to thank GOPB for the really stellar work they did on this bill. It was quite concerning to us, and really found it in a good place that maybe makes some more positive changes than it was initially written in the bill. And then lastly, local government fees amendments. I will note that this bill unfortunately did not pass. We talked about this one kind of throughout the legislative process, throughout the interim. This is the transportation utility fee bill. As you all might be aware, local cities are allowed, or by the Utah Supreme Court ruling, can impose a transportation utility fee in their community. And what this bill would have done is would have put some procedural requirements around that imposition of a transportation utility fee to make sure that it was consistent among communities, that it was a reasonable fee, et cetera. The bill ultimately didn't pass, but one thing that we do want to continue to know is that cities still have the ability to impose this bill. And if they have the intent to do so, we'd recommend, of course, working with our friends at the Utah League of Cities and Towns as they do that, but also to follow the parameters that the bill had set in place for that bill. It is a tool that's available to our communities to address the transportation needs that they have. So that's just some of our key bills, key appropriations. We noted at the beginning of this that it really was a great year for transportation investment and for housing. And it was a collaborative year amongst our partners. We've talked about how the legislature really used a method of partnership and not preemption. That's what our friends at ULCT keep touting. But as the governor and several others have said, really Utah is taking a model around that's not being used around the country and allowing cities to kind of to take these tools and to address their challenges and their needs head on, as opposed to taking away that local control and authority. And as we've shared, the legislature continues to invest in multimodal transportation. So as we see it, it was a really successful year, this legislative session. We're grateful for everyone's partnership and help on the various priorities that we were all pursuing. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are some.
Miranda, appreciate it. Appreciate the thorough report and also everything you do during that period of time. So thank you. If there's no questions, we'll move on to our public comment. This time, if anyone would like to step forward and make any comments to the board, please do so. We need you to state your name and address. If you're online and you have a question, please put your little hand emblem up, and we'll try to see if we can pick you out on that. We will need you to be able to come live to us, take your name off. So, Andrea, is there anyone? Okay, doesn't look like there's any comment on that, so we'll continue to move through our agenda on to item 4, and this is Mr. Shepherd. We'll turn the time over to him.
Thank you, Chair. We've got 4 items on our report today. Item 4A is a review of the materials provided in your packets. Item 4B and 4C are action items, and so I'm going to turn the time over to the one and only Ben Withers to get us kicked off. The man, the myth, the legend.
Thanks, Mayor.
I get told the same.
Well, that's it. Today, surprisingly, we get to talk about the TIP. This is an awesome document, as all of you know. It's the Transportation Improvement Program, or it's called the TIP. And what the TIP is it's a 6-year program of highway transit and active transportation projects. Many of you are aware of this, but it also helps us implement the long-range plans and meets the short-range needs of the Wasatch Front. And then because of the dynamic nature of all of the projects that are in there, we generally have an opportunity to amend or modify the TIP about every time we meet. And that's due to funding or new projects that come up. We are currently functioning under the 2024 Transportation Improvement Program. And as Mayor Shepherd identified, there are 3 items on the agenda that'll pertain to the TIP. Item 4C is another item there, but so item 4A, as we report the actions that took place at Transcom on their meeting in February. And then we have a new board modification to bring before you today. And then we'll come back and talk about the obligations of federal funds that were in last year, federal fiscal year 2023. So in your meeting materials, you should see a copy of the table, and attached to that table, or maybe the table's attached to the resolution that was approved by Transcom, is a list of the projects that they reviewed and approved. And this is an item for information. The next item then is, if we can move on, Mayor, is that all right? So this is the board modification that we bring before the Regional Council for your review and approval. And again, in your meeting materials, there are 2 tables, and they identify 6 projects that we'll review in a fairly quick manner. If there's any questions, please feel free to ask. The very first project that we have is on the east side of Salt Lake Valley. This is in the Big Cottonwood Canyon area. This is actually an intersection of SR 90 or 190 and Fort Union Boulevard. This is a very busy intersection, and generally traffic that's coming from the south to go east up into the canyon is where a lot of congestion takes place. This particular project, or the modifications to take place on this project, making it a new project to add into the TIP, is to address the intersection as well as construct merge lanes for about a half a mile up the canyon, and then improve the bike lanes. So the request for this is to add this new project into the program. The new project will cost about $15 million, and these funds come from the TIF, Transportation Investment Fund's Recreation Hotspot Program. The next project that we have to review is also on the east side of the Salt Lake Valley, and this is in the Little Cottonwood Canyon area. This is to replace some barrier. In this particular location, as some of you may be aware, that during the winter of 22-23, we generally have avalanches, but in this particular year, an avalanche took out this barrier here along the facility. To give you an idea of what that avalanche, the damage did across the area, there you can see some of the impacts of Mother Nature there as that snow come down the mountain. But this project is to install concrete barriers where the existing section of guardrail was taken out. This project is a new project. It is estimated to cost $2 million, and the funds for this comes from the statewide Transportation Solutions Program. The next project that we have to look at is also in the Salt Lake area. This is in the Holiday City area. This is on 5600 South. And what it is to replace a bridge that crosses the Salt Lake and the Jordan Canal in this location right here. Here's some pictures of what the surface area looks like. Quite a beautiful and a peaceful look. And then we look underneath and we see what's happening underneath the surface, or at least the top of the bridge. This is to add additional funds to this project. This project is currently funded, but needs an additional $748,000 of the Bridge Formula Program, and also a local match of $55,000 because of the location of the structure. Holiday City is aware of this and is willing to participate, and the department is requesting that we add these funds to the program. That brings us to the second paper, or the second table, that identifies 3 more projects for board modification. This project here is along the I-15. This is to address the bridge deck along the various bridges along I-15 between 114 South and 300 North. This will address the potholes as well as the approach slabs on I-15. So this is to add an additional $750,000 for a total estimated project cost of 3.7+ million. The additional funds for this project also come from the State Transportation Solution Program and funding from the State Bridge Program. The next project that we have is an interesting project. This is on UDOT, or this is a request from UDOT. So in 2027, the contracts that manage our express lanes expires. And so the need is for, in order to allow the time necessary for UDOT to procure, to test, and accept the new systems, they need to begin now. And what these funds will enable UDOT to do is to test other systems. This particular system that they're considering looking at is called tolling as a service. If you were to look in at the benefits, there's quite a bit of benefits to this new system. But with this time frame that we have, this will enable UDOT to procure and to test this system, but at the same time maintain in case we or the department determines that the standard tolling system is a proper way to go. So the request then is to add the additional funds to the program of $4.3 million, giving us a total project cost of a little more than $6 million. And these funds are also from the State Transportation Solution Program, as well as the restricted tollway funds. The last project we have to look at is a project that originated from this body several years ago, and this is a project that is in Salt Lake County, Kearns, and West Valley. It's along the 4700 South. This particular project runs between 4000 West and 5600 West. And at the time that this project was reviewed and approved, there was no issues and problems. But over the course of time and years, and with the costs that increased, there were things that were considered by this body to optimize the ability for this project to move forward. First, on the east end, there was canals. And so that particular section of the project was pulled out of the main project so that it could begin ahead of schedule, ahead of that mainline improvement of reconstructing 4700 South, and so that everything would be ready to tie in together when the other, or the rest of the facility was complete. On the south end, or the west end of this project, the Union Pacific crossed 4700 South in kind of a diagonal way. Working with the railroad sometimes can take a little more effort. And so it was asked that we pull this section of the project off, allowing that time necessary to obtain the necessary approvals so that this project could move forward. At this time now is when we would like to address this particular segment of the project. This will complete this project, but it is to add the additional funds to this project so that this project can be completed. And so this project will reconstruct and widen to a 5-lane section with the bike lanes, missing sidewalks, as well as addressing the crossing over the track so that we don't have standing cars on the track. The additional funds is 2.1+ million, giving us a total project of 4.2+ million for this project. And that would conclude all of the projects for this board mod.
Thank you, Ben. Are there any questions, Ben, on any of these modifications? Okay, seeing none, Mr. Chair, I'd move that we approve the resolution to modify the 2024-2029 Transportation Improvement Program as requested.
Is there a second? Then moved and seconded that we approve the resolution to modify the 2024 to 2029 transportation or the TIP program as presented to us. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Ben.
Mr. Chair, I of course supported the motion, but I'm curious, I've got two quick questions. I don't know, maybe for UDOT or maybe Ben has the answers. I'm curious on that first one going up big, if there's been any consideration to like the fact that everyone's recognized we need more busing up big, and will that intersection, is there enough space there to do any dedicated lanes or anything as we look at sort of how that's configured? Or maybe I just reach out after, but I'm curious.
Yeah, we can probably follow up after if needed, but I think that there are some parallel efforts on looking at transit options in that area.
Yeah,
There's some,
that's great. It'd be, I mean, it's a necessary infrastructure enhancement, but thinking ahead. And then the other one, the concrete barriers up little on the second one that Ben pointed out, are those temporary or is that the permanent now?
yeah, those would be installed as permanent. And so I think one of the issues with the guardrail that was taken out is there's not a lot of space on the slope to try to put guardrail back. And so these would be, it's kind of jargony, but moment slab anchored concrete barriers, because there's not that room to traditionally anchor. So you have to like build some infrastructure back into the roadway to have barrier that can withstand crash, you know, or protect that slope. So those would be permanent in place of the guardrail that was
And
there
how
before.
long is that section? Do you know?
I don't know off the top of my head, but
I believe I got
They're
the
just
mile
not very
point.
pretty and a very pretty canyon, but I get it. I mean, you've got to protect the road and people driving up it, but
About 2/10 of a mile.
okay, yeah, that
sounds
sounds right.
We'll allow you to go paint a mural on them.
I know, I quite, well, you know, somebody
I mean,
will.
I'll allow you. UDOT may
Wait.
not, but I will.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
I
thanks.
appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Mayor. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Well, at our February meeting, Transcom reviewed the draft roadway safety resolution for the WFRC region. Kip Billings is going to give us a brief overview of the safety planning effort that staff have collaboratively been working on and introduce the resolution to you. So Kip.
Thank you. Yes, last month we did share our work to date on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. It's a plan to identify roadway safety improvement needs throughout the region, and that will allow your communities to qualify for applying for safety implementation grants and other means to make those safety improvements. And part of that Comprehensive Safety Action Plan is a safety resolution. And that's what we're bringing to this body for you to adopt. That was recommended at Transcom that be adopted. Since the Transcom meeting, we learned that the report itself needs to be adopted prior to April 30th. So we have added that language to the motion that we'll look at it at the end of my presentation. Do I click this or? Okay. So this is the cover of our Comprehensive Safety Action Plan, which is still in draft form. If you had an opportunity to follow the links that were provided in your packet, the main body of the report is already over 100 pages. It'll be closer to 200 by the time it's done. And in addition to the main body of the report, the entire Wasatch Front region was divided into 11 geographic focus areas. So each of those areas, the analysis looked at the crash history specific to that area. The needs in Tooele are much different than what we see in downtown Salt Lake, for example. So each appendix for those 11 different areas itself is over 100 pages. So all told, this document will represent about 1,500 pages of work. And despite an accelerated schedule that I'll address a little bit later, I think it's commendable of our consulting team led by Brent Crowther with Kimley Horn and their partners at Fair and Piers and Penna Powers. Not only the quality of the information they've provided to date, but just the sheer quantity. And it's, I think, significant, this report that we're making available, that this will serve as a resource primarily for the your communities to inform the projects going into the regional transportation plan or the transportation improvement program, or whether it's projects that you're entertaining as a local community. This will be a valuable resource to you for 5-10 years and beyond. So I think this is significant.
Kip, I just want to emphasize the point that Kip just made. We're talking about how critical transportation safety is for all users, drivers, pedestrians, bicyclists. But it's really important that we don't just talk about it at a high level, that we provide more specific information so that you can address priorities within your communities. And that's why Kip is talking about the 1,500 pages in the report. That has detail about potential improvements that you can make in your own communities. It's not limited to that, but specific projects. And we've worked with all of your city staff to identify those and made recommendations on improvements. And also, and Kip's going to get into this, then there are funds available, federal funds, and then also WFRC, county, state funds, et cetera, that are available to help make those improvements to make the roadway safer for all of our users.
So in a nutshell, the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan is a plan to provide local governments the means to make strategic roadway safety improvements. So here is our schedule. We started out with a 12-month schedule. Last fall, we completed the safety analysis looking at the crash data for the last 5 years. And following that safety analysis, we worked through specific safety project recommendations or case studies, as well as strategies to address the safety needs. And again, as Andrew mentioned, those are specific to each geographic area. The crazy red lines there at the end, that reflects when we learned of the notice of funding opportunity. It was not a July deadline, it was a May deadline. So we have accelerated our draft action plan, and that's why we need the action in April rather than June. You can go to the next slide. So the first 4 columns of that work has been completed already. We're in that next to last column. It's still dated May to June. That's actually March to April. And the 2 parts there that we're talking about today, the safety commitment resolution, as well as the draft and the final comprehensive safety action plan. So this action plan embraces or incorporates the Federal Highways Safe System approach, which is a paradigm shift in 2 respects. You wanted me to take that out of there, but I left it. Okay. That the safety on the roadways, the old paradigm was if you're going to be out using the roads you need to be, it's a dangerous place out there, and you need to be constantly vigilant to avoid tragedy. And the new paradigm is the roadway system needs to be, the safety incorporated in the roadway system needs to be redundant, and we need to mitigate events on the roadway that a human mistake doesn't lead to serious injury or even death, that we can change that. And the other paradigm shift is that we need to, our approach to roadway safety needs to be proactive rather than reactive. For example, if we identify how improvements that we can make to how crosswalks are marked, that we shouldn't just implement that at a few unfortunate locations where there's been tragic events, that is something that's done system-wide. So those are kind of the two elements of our paradigm shift. Here's an example of the type of project that would come out of the safety action plan. This actually predates our plan, but the analysis identified this as a location where we should make some improvements. And those improvements were already done outside of the safety action plan, which hasn't been adopted yet. You can see this is next on Bengal Boulevard, next to Brighton High School. There was an offset intersection, and then you have the high traffic flows as traffic arrives and exits the high school at different times. The solution was this roundabout, or in this case, an egg-about, I guess. And that mitigates, improves safety in three ways. The roundabout has fewer conflict points than a 4- or 5-legged intersection. The speeds of those conflicts are reduced, and the angles are reduced as well. So in three ways, you end up with a safer facility. So that's the type of thing that's being identified in the action plan.
And Kip, so to your point, like on the left side here, there are examples like this all over the region that are specifically called out in the plan, so that can help you say, oh, here's an area that we might seek to improve safety in our community. And I imagine some of you will think the same thing that I thought. I'm a lawyer by training. And I thought, well, wait a second, we're calling out specific projects that are identified as safety risks. Doesn't that potentially create liability? And the answer is no, because there's a specific provision in federal law that enables and encourages communities to identify transportation safety needs and eliminates the risk of liability, so that we don't have an impediment to working on improving safety at the local level.
Yes, that's true. We can go to the next slide. So the safety commitment towards zero fatalities, there's 5 elements in there. That's again in your packet, if you had an opportunity to look at that. Number 1, it's a proactive approach to our safety, as we discussed. Number 2, it's a declaration that roadway serious injuries and fatalities are not an acceptable part of using our transportation system. Number 3, there's a goal of leading towards zero fatalities, 50% reduction in serious injuries and fatalities by the year 2040. Stated in annual terms, that's about 2.5% reduction each year. And then number 5, a commitment to report on an annual basis to this body or other forums our progress on implementing safety improvements. As I mentioned, we've learned since our Transcom meeting that the report itself needs to be adopted by the end of April. So in addition to the safety resolution, the language in your proposed motion is authorizing Transcom to adopt the action plan at its April meeting. The final report will be ready about April 18th. We'll make that available publicly on our project website. And the deadline for applying for implementation grants is May 16th of this year. That's the project website where we'll make the report available when it's ready for public distribution. Any questions, anything I can clarify?
Yeah, I was reading through this as you were talking about it, and the one thing I'm not noticing in here is any discussion of secondary incidents. We look at some of the incidents, we say, okay, this is what causes our crashes. But one of the things that I'm very well of in my career previous to this was that 25% of our fatal and serious injury crashes that occur in our state are as a result of a secondary incident occurring. So it's a matter of getting to the scene and establishing good traffic control and doing some positive things to prevent a secondary incident, which can be far worse than even the primary incident. And I don't see that anywhere in this report. I think it's something that we might be missing. I know Federal Highway is promoting that quite a bit. And so I'm just wondering if there's any room to maybe look at that, or in the future look at that, because I know that's one thing that there's work being done to try and implement and put even secondary reporting in the current crash reporting system that they're using for the state of Utah. So I just don't know. I didn't see it in here, but maybe there's something I'm missing, but I think it's valuable information.
That is very valuable. And I can raise that with our consultant. Again, the analysis was based on the crash data that's reported through Department of Public Safety, Utah Highway Patrol. All of the police departments are reporting that into a common database. And when we're looking at that data, I don't know that they're capturing that. There is a
They're
section
not
of
now. In fact,
report
that's one of the changes they want to
says-
make to the current
Yeah.
crash report. So we can capture more of that data, because statistically nationwide, it's been proven out. And this, with the states that do capture it, we're not capturing it right now in Utah. We need to.
That's again, a great point. We have a section of the report that will discuss additional policies that need to be updated to improve reporting such as that. And I can raise that with them and have that included. That's an excellent point.
And to that point, Commissioner, with your background and really anybody else, the action that we're recommending today is to adopt the safety resolution, which sets the principles, and then to authorize Transcom in their meeting at the end of April to actually act on the comprehensive safety action plan. Transcom has been working on this. You have in your materials a copy of the report, which is still draft. We would welcome any feedback. We've been working with your communities, but there's always room for improvements. So we'd welcome any feedback, and now would be the time, I mean, over the next, few weeks. And then we can look to incorporate anything as needed before we take final action, or before Transcom takes final action at the end of April.
I sat through a couple of these in Davis County, and it seems like to me we did cover some of the secondary roads as we went through and kind of pinpointed things. I know Wayne was there also when we were there. Do you recall, was the maps we were working on, did it include some of the secondary?
Yeah, if you're going to speak, you got to use the mic, Wayne.
Like Commissioner Perry and Kip have been saying, I think that would be an excellent addition to the report, because I don't think it's in there currently. So thank you.
While I have the mic. Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to say congrats on pulling together a great document in such a short turnaround. I know that was a quick time to be able to produce that. And I just wanted to note that there are multiple processes just like this happening throughout the state as well. And so this resolution is amazing, and the plan is amazing. And the collective impact of this region's plan, as well as the similar plans for other regions, I hope will make our state a lot safer. So great job.
As you mentioned, that'll take the opportunity to toot our horn a little bit. I think we're the only one that's going to get completed prior to the May 16th deadline. So that maybe helps your communities in your applications. So that I'd put that out there. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks, Kip. If there's not any other comments or questions for Kip, I'd move that we adopt the resolution to work towards zero road fatalities and serious injuries, and delegate to Transcom the authority to adopt the comprehensive safety action plan.
First, move and second that we adopt the resolution. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you, Kip. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody's hard work on this.
All right, well, item 4D, and we'll conclude our report by going back to Ben for a couple of brief remarks about federal transportation funds fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may, did we take action on the board modification?
Yes,
good.
we did.
I was so nervous I didn't remember, so I was glad. Thank you. So real quick then, where we're at then with our current transportation bill, like its predecessors, requires that we give an annual report on those funds that were obligated, on the federal funds that were obligated in the prior year. Not getting any. Here we go. So overall, to make you aware or to share with you, so here's the federal funds that were obligated statewide. It was a little more than 569 million. Actually, 536 plus million was the federal share, with the local matches of a little more than 32 million. Our federal funds only are about roughly in the low 30% of the funds that are spent towards transportation. So a significant part, but we are very fortunate here in the state of Utah to have a lot of funds that are allocated, as have been explained earlier in the meeting. But so statewide, we have a little more than 569 million that was obligated. And then in the region-wide, and this is all federal funds, so in the Wasatch Front region-wide, we have a little more than 339 million that was obligated. 321 plus million of that was federal, the match being a little more than 18 million. That's about 59% of all of the federal funds that were obligated in the state of Utah were along the Wasatch Front. In the funds that the Wasatch Front Regional Council has a responsibility to program, that's the Surface Transportation Program, or STP, the Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Program, that's CMAQ, the TAC funds, which are the Transportation Alternative Program, or the CRP funds, which is Carbon Reduction Program. You can see that we had about 49 million plus that was obligated this past year. 46 plus million of that was the federal share. 2.4 million of that was local match. These are all funds that this body identified the projects, recommended the projects, and these projects moved forward during the year of 2023. Now, an obligation doesn't mean that the project finished up. It doesn't mean that that was all the money for that particular project. An obligation means that that's the federal approval of their commitment to reimburse the state or a project agency on the funds that are spent on a project. And so that would be the report of the federal funds. Then on the transit side of things, there was over 339 million funds that were obligated. 187 plus million of that was for capital improvements. 72 plus million of that was for operation and planning. This is only the federal side of things, none of the other funds that UTA works with. In your packet and in the meeting materials, there's a table that identifies, and we've got it statewide if you want it statewide, but the WFRC area, it identifies all of the projects that had obligations or deobligations. We've also got those tables for the WFRC programs, and then we've also got those tables for the UTA programs or grants that they refer to in their obligations. But that would be the report on the obligation funds for the federal fiscal year 2023.
Thank you, Ben. Any questions real quick? Okay, seeing none, Chair, that is our report. Thank you.
Okay, appreciate it. Appreciate all your efforts on this. We'll now move over to our item 5 Regional Growth Committee with Mayor Dandoy. We are going to switch and go do item 5B and then item 5A.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Certainly, we want to start with that planning, the technical assistance for local governments. First, we will hear about newly funded projects through the Transportation Land Use Connections Programs, or our famous TLC. After that, we will consider 2 stationary plans completed partnerships with Wasatch Regional Council by West Jordan and Midvale. So with that, we'd like to turn the time over to Megan Townsend, okay, that she can carry the conversation. Megan, I think you're coming in remote.
I am, thank you. Sound check, everyone hearing me? Okay.
Yes.
All good. Hi, I've had the pleasure of spending the week in Norwalk, Connecticut, talking about housing, and I'm very grateful for much of the collaboration and the policies we have in the state of Utah and in the Wasatch Front region to accomplish some things that are hard across the country. But pleased to be talking about planning technical assistance with you in Utah today. we're talking about both the transportation and land use connection projects and the station area plans for certification together, because we want to remind you that we have various resources for technical assistance. Both of these fall under that umbrella. So first, we'll go to the TLC.
Just in case, before anybody gets worried, Meg said she's been in Norwalk, Connecticut, talking about housing. And it's not because she's looking for a house because she's moving to Connecticut. It's because she was brought out there as a national housing expert with a panel of other housing experts through a special program that they paid for to advise them on their community and bring some of the concepts that we're doing here there. Unless there's something that she hasn't, at least that's what I hope. At least that's what she told us, Mayor. All right, Megan, go ahead.
No, we have it good on the Wasatch Front. I'm staying put. Thanks, Andrew. I am at the White Plains Airport right now, which is maybe not the ideal place to present this from, but we'll just get through. So I'll start with the TLC awards, and Jordan, if you could advance. Thanks. So Transportation and Land Use Connection is our flagship technical assistance program. It's been around for over a decade now, serving your cities with plans and studies, policies and ordinances, implementation strategies, and really any planning efforts that you need to achieve your vision and get closer to achieving the Wasatch Choice vision as well. So working together on these planning projects with our partners, UDOT, UTA, Salt Lake County, and administered by us. Go ahead and advance. This year, we've been able to make over 1.7 in project funds come to your communities. We've awarded 1.5 million in TLC funding, matched by 200,000 from your communities. That's totaling 11 awards, which I'll run through now. In advance. In the Ogden-Layton area, we've been able to award the Clearfield Transportation Master Plan, the Clinton General Plan, and Small Area Plans project. So a large project doing a lot of planning for Clinton. Kaysville Center Small Area Plan, North Salt Lake's Town Center Urban Design Standards. There is PSA over my head. I'm sorry if it's loud. And Davis and Weber County's 3-Gate Trail Implementation Study and Market Analysis. So that will be a project involving several communities in the Davis and Weber areas. And Byron is ready to step in if this is too loud.
Hey, Megan.
Go.
Hey, Megan.
Yeah.
Can you tell those guys at the airport that we're having a meeting, and would they please just be quiet?
I'm so sorry.
Probably
It's
only
a tiny
3 flights a
airport.
day. They could delay one of them.
Meg, let's do an audible. Byron is at the podium, okay? So you stay on, and Byron, you pick it up from there, okay?
Great. Hello, everyone. Yeah, so Meg went through the Ogden-Layton area projects. So I'll continue on. We got the Salt Lake projects, Bluffdale Active Transportation Plan, Midvale Parks and Open Space Master Plan, and also Porter Rockwell Trail Extension Alignment Study, the Riverton Combined AT and Transportation Master Plans. And this one's personal to me because I live on 6th South, but Salt Lake City, 5th and 6th South, Grand Boulevard's Concept Development Project. And then our last award for this year is the Stockton Comprehensive General Plan and Code Updates. So yeah, we're really excited to get these projects started next fiscal year. If there are any questions, otherwise I can move on to our stationary plan certification discussion.
I just want to emphasize the great partnership that exists here. WFRC administers this program, but again, and Megan said this already, UDOT, UTA, Salt Lake County all contribute funding, and this is all about helping our communities absorb growth in a way that works best for you. And we're just thrilled to be able to help you in this work.
Great. And yes, all of this information and more is available on our website, including a map of the decade plus of projects we've done through this program at wfrc.org/TLC. Moving on to stationary planning. This is an area of planning that the Wasatch Front has been doing for many years, but there's been recent attention on it from the legislature, and a new program has come online in the past years with funding from the legislature. The objectives of this planning effort are to increase the availability and affordability of housing, promote sustainable environmental conditions, enhance access to opportunities, and increase transportation choices and connections. This is relevant for all fixed guideway transit stations in our area. That includes mostly light rail and commuter rail and bus rapid transit stations. The components that are required for a station area plan are that it has to have a vision, include a map of the station area, a 5-year implementation plan, a statement describing how the objectives have been met, and their public and stakeholder engagement requirements. This, again, is a program that we administer in partnership with the Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity and UTA, and we also work with the Mountain Land Association of Governments to distribute the funding that we got from the legislature. That was $5 million split up between WFRC and MAG. So far to date, of our identified 126 station areas, which you'll notice is different than the number of stations because station areas can extend beyond the boundaries of the home city. So we have more station areas than we have stations, but we have so far to date certified 17 of those station area plans. We have 7 before us today. We have 52 more that are in progress and about 50 that have not yet started. And we've also received and approved 19 applications for technical assistance. So today we're here to discuss 5 stations which are broken up into 7 station areas. You can see the slightly different color of the historic Gardner and Bingham Junction station areas. Those cities are divided by the river, and so therefore they both have 2 station areas even though they're only 1 station. For the red line stations, West Jordan City Center, Historic Gardner, and Bingham Junction, those were tackled in a single plan, a joint effort by West Jordan and Midvale. And the blue line stations are completely within Midvale. So Midvale also did a secondary project on their own to address those stations. And so we will do this by city rather than by station. So I think I'll turn it over to Mayor Burton to say a few words about the West Jordan project and process.
Thank you. I really appreciate this opportunity. You guys are I'm so excited to be here with you, and I hope you're excited to see this as well. If you look at that station area plan, that is right across the street from our city hall. So we have been working on this for years with conjunction with UTA and trying to make this happen. And then when the state legislators decided to put some money into it, then Wasatch Front was able to grant us some money to help us work this together and create it. And we worked with Midvale. Thank you, Midvale, for working so well with us on this. I appreciate that. And Mayor Stevenson, who is online, thank you. And look at that. See where it says 1C? That is a bridge that takes you over Redwood Road. We are bridging communities by putting this development in here. And it's not only is it housing, but it's other economic things. And this is just so great. I mean, we're going to make this so good. We've got a track station right there on the right. We've got UTA going down Redwood Road. We've got lots of communities there. And then we've got a park over there. And tomorrow at 3 o'clock, we are breaking ground for the West Jordan Community Arts Building, which will be accessible from this over here. This is great. It's all coming together. We love it when things like this happen. So these are just 3 of them that we're looking to have. And then we're in the process, because we got some more money from Wasatch Front Regional Council for the stationary plan. We're working on the other 3 in our city. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So with that said, and if there are no further questions or comments, we do have a suggested motion for the board for the station, or for the city, excuse me.
Oh, I moved to certify the station area plans for the Bingham Creek Junction, Historic Gardner, and West Jordan City Center stations.
I'll second that. Way to go, Mayor.
Yes, I mean, to be honest with you, Chairman, you can't stop that excitement. I mean, this is great from the mayor. So please carry on. And by the way, there's one more behind this. Would you mind basically
Well,
stepping
should
up with
we
that one too?
go ahead and take a vote on this?
I got it. Please take a vote.
Any questions or comments on this as far as it goes?
It's just really a comment, both in my prior position at the Salt Lake County, but certainly at UTA, where communities come together and commonly plan things that are clearly intertwined, is really commendable, because I think for the general public, they don't very often know geopolitical lines, and how those communities integrate speak a lot to whether or not they care about us as residents. And so I think clearly what will come out of this is a better outcome, and just hats off to them.
Okay, if not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Okay.
Great, thank you. And then moving on to Midvale. Midvale has 4 station areas before us today, 2 from the joint plan with West Jordan and also 2 for their own Blue Line stations. Do we have Mayor Stevenson online? Great, I'll just throw it over to him if he would like to say a few words.
Well, yeah, thanks everyone. And I apologize. I don't quite have the energy that Mayor Burton has this morning because we just wrapped up a 7-hour council budget retreat. So kind of, I got to go find my energy and get to his level. But this was really a great process for us going through this. We had really good community engagement throughout this. Staff is already starting to implement some of what we got out of these station area plans. So really excited to see that. Appreciate the partnership with West Jordan, Wasatch Front Regional Council, UTA. And I know we should have Vendaline from Midvale City in the room there if there are any questions. But just really excited that that we're finally to this point and start to see it be implemented.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And as he said, we have Vindeline Knobloch from the city here. If anyone has any questions, Vindeline is more than happy to answer them. Otherwise, we have a second suggested motion for these stationary plans.
Okay, Mr. Chair, we now have the second of the stationary plans for the consideration of this council. I would recommend then that we certify the stationary plans for Bingham Junction, Historic Gardner, the Midvale Fort Union, and the Midvale Centers stations.
Here, second. Been moved and seconded that we approve the plans for the Bingham Junction, Historic Gardner, Midvale Fort Union, and also the Midvale Center subdivision stations, center stations. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, West Jordan and Midvale. That's great.
My Dr. Pepper's wearing off here, so.
Chairman, we do have one more item. We'll go back to that. By the way, can I ask if Megan might have had any of their follow-on comments before we leave her?
I really appreciate that. Byron did a great job, and congratulations to Midvale and West Jordan.
Thank you, Megan, and be safe in your travels. Okay, Chairman, we do have one action, item 5A, that deals with the Regional Transportation Amendment Process Update. Today, we have an action item to modify the RTP amendment process with a proposed clarification and modest modification of our consideration. This was considered and recommended unanimously at the Regional Growth Committee. Julie is going to help us walk through this. So Julie, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. So as the Mayor said, we have 3 modifications and clarifications to our Regional Transportation Plan Amendment process, which affects our Metropolitan Planning Organization's functions. And you mentioned that the RGC took action on this last week. So the Regional Transportation Plan Amendment process is a documented process by which we can amend the Regional Transportation Plan between cycles. So we update what I'm going to call the RTP every 4 years. And sometimes we have to amend that because things have changed either from a funding paradigm or land use or completed planning studies. All of our amendments go through a similar rigorous process that the Regional Transportation Plan goes through in terms of financial constraint, public input, air quality, and needs analysis. So our Regional Transportation Plan is broken down into 3 different levels. The amendment process is broken into 3 levels based on regional significance and project type. All of our amendment levels start with an application that's required by either a city, a county, UDOT, or UTA, along with the letter of support from someone, either usually the mayor or higher up at one of the agencies. So it's not just that we're going in and making an amendment. These amendments are requested by our member agencies. And so today we are proposing 2 amendments to level 1, which are staff modifications. These are the most basic sort of project types with the least regional significance, and 1 amendment clarification to level 2. And I'll get into what projects are in both those levels as we move through. So the first clarification is to include amendments that only modify a project's need-based phasing as a level 1 amendment. So level 1 amendments are things like ownership changes, operational projects without signalized intersections, active transportation, because that's not federally required to be in a regional transportation plan, and then Wasatch Choice Vision Land and Land Use Centers. So these are sort of non-regionally significant. They're what's called exempt projects from an air quality conformity point of view. And so every project that's in the plan has a needs-based phase and a financially constrained phase. The needs-based phase is when a project's needed, financially constrained is when we think we can afford to build that project. We are not required through our federal requirements to include needs-based phasing in the regional transportation plan. It doesn't affect our air quality modeling. It doesn't affect our fiscal constraints. But we include it as a way to tell communities and the public and other stakeholders when a project is needed. And it helps with understanding when funding might be available or land use changes that may be impacted by when a project is needed. So we're recommending that since this is not currently and explicit in the process, that these needs-based phasing only modifications would be a level 1 amendment. That does not guarantee a project get funding. If a project wanted to have funding, they would need to come back and go through the amendment process again. And usually that amendment process would be a level 2 or 3. So something that has a lot more public buy-in and scrutiny. The second clarification we're making is clarifying some of the text within the document. We want our RTP amendment process document, which is sort of the guidelines for communities to understand how we do this, to be as transparent as possible. And you can see within your packet, the outline changes is just to the technical language within the document. So currently level 1 amendments require staff consultation with the facility owner, affected communities, or transportation agencies, the Federal Highway Administration, the interagency consultation team, which is made up of air quality and transportation. I promise you, I'm not trying to bore you with all of this, but staff from transportation and air quality agencies, and then the regional growth committee chair and vice chair, and they are approved by our WFRC executive director. So we are just clarifying in different parts of the document that this is the process that we go through. And so that is number 2.
Julie, I'll just note, we had a good conversation at the Regional Growth Committee meeting about this, and I want to thank Mayor Zoltansky and Mayor Stanger for asking the question of making sure that if there's any changes that are proposed to be made that affect a community, that there would be dialogue with that community. So like, let's say if UDOT made a proposed change and it would potentially would affect a community or UTA, then there would be dialogue with that community. And we always do that already, but we said that makes sense to have it explicitly spelled out in the process. So that's one of the things that you're seeing there, consultation with the affected community. So thanks to those mayors for making that good suggestion.
And then the third and last clarification is, again, as outlined in the document, to the text of a regional transportation plan amendment process. And this is to clarify that level 2 amendments, which I forgot to mention before, are non-exempt, non-regionally significant. So collectors and minor arterials, corridor preservation, operational projects with signalized intersections, and non-fixed guideway transit. So that would be bus operations. That they require a new air quality conformity determination, but that they do not require a new regional emissions analysis. And so that, again, is language within the document that just needed to be clarified in the different sections of our process. So those are the 3 what did you say? Modest modifications and clarifications. And so, like I said, this was approved by the RGC last week. And so our suggested motion is to direct us as WFRC staff to update the RTP amendment process as presented and to make minor technical modifications as may be needed from time to time in consultation with the RGC chair and vice chair.
Thank you, Julie. Perfect. Therefore, Chairman, we would ask a motion to be direct WFRC staff to update the RTP amendment process as presented and make minor technical modifications that may be needed from time to time in consultation with the RGC chair and the vice chair.
I'll second. Do I hear a second? Second by Brandon Stanger. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? That's unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. That's the conclusion of the Regional Growth Committee. Chair, we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay. We'll now move over to our item 6, the Budget Committee. and turn the time over to Amy Winder Newton. And again, Amy, you can see you have from 2:55 to 3:10. So you've got plenty of time if we're talking about tomorrow. So
I'm going to do my best to get through this quickly. So thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So in your packets are the draft fiscal year 25 WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program that outline the activities that we plan to undertake in fiscal year 2025. So these materials were prepared by staff in coordination with the budget committee. Our budget committee met on March 14th, and this has all been reviewed. We're recommending that the council approve releasing the draft of the goals, budget, and the unified planning work program for public comment. An updated version of these materials will be prepared and presented to the council at our May 23rd meeting for final approval. So Andrew, if you could briefly summarize the fiscal year 25 goals, and then we'll have our CFO, Marion Florence, to summarize the budget.
Thank you, Councilmember Winder Newton. I'd be happy to, and as noted, Marion and I are going to be succinct in our description here of both the goals and the budget. But I just want to be really clear that we are happy to talk with any and all of you in detail about any of these items whenever you want to. Okay, it's really important to us that you as a council understand the goals and the budget and feel comfortable about all of that. And so we're not recommending a final action today. It is to release them for comment so we have time. So we welcome your input. With that said, we have 4 principal goals recommended for WFRC for fiscal year 2025. And I will note to you that they are very similar to the FY24 goals. And that's reflective of the fact that we have continuity in the work that we do from one year to another. The planning work that we do often stretches across one year to the next. So the first goal, and I'm just going to read those, collaboratively advance the Wasatch Choice vision as a framework for integrating transportation, land use, and economic development to address growth-related opportunities and challenges. And I will say these words are new at the end this year, and maintain and enhance quality of life. Not like we just thought of that, but we wanted to be explicit that ultimately that's the purpose of the work that we do in all of our region and all of your communities, is to enhance quality of life now and for generations to come. That's the first goal. The second one you see there is effectively administer ongoing plans and programs. Jordan, just blow that up just a little bit more. And I want to highlight actually 2A here, which is, last year, you all remember we adopted the regional transportation plan and the updated Wasatch Choice vision. But planning is work that is continual. And so we will now initiate, and this is 2A, begin development of the 2027 to 2050 regional transportation plan and Wasatch Choice vision. And I'll just note there's 2 areas of focus we're identifying here. One is to explore aspirational opportunities for multimodal transportation choices for state and local roads, transit, and active transportation, balanced with pragmatic consideration of context and costs. That's sort of the work that we all do here together. And then 2, coordinating that transportation with your city and town centers, housing options, parks and public spaces, and economic opportunities. In that rolls up a lot of the philosophy of the approach that we take here in that 2A. Moving on to goal number 3, provide subject matter expertise to federal, state, and local officials and policymakers. You've heard a bunch about this in the report that we had at the beginning of the meeting about legislative work. That legislative engagement gets at this policy space. We also do work at the federal level, as you know, coordinating with you all and transportation agencies on the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. These types of items are embodied in this goal number 3. I'll note at the end of 3H, the very last sentence there, work with partners and other stakeholders to address ozone air quality conformity challenges. We've talked about this some as a body already, but the federal regulations on ozone are challenging. And we are working on those. More to come over time as we talk about that, but that's an important issue for us in the year ahead. And then finally, goal number 4, strive for organizational excellence. And I'm going to highlight a few of these because they're really important. 4A, ensure accountability, transparency, and communication to WFRC's members WFRC's members and stakeholders. That accountability and transparency is critical to us in the way that we do our work. We're a public agency, we're dealing with public resources, and it's vital that you and our stakeholders and our publics understand what we do and there's transparency. And then related to that, 4B, use resources prudently and efficiently and maintain budget stability. Again, really, really important to us as a public agency. We have a charge in dealing with public resources that we have to use them prudently and efficiently. And then finally, 4C, just the first sentence here, create and maintain a work environment that maximizes the health, happiness, and productivity of an excellent staff. And we have just that. We have an amazing staff here at WFRC, and we want them to be healthy, happy, and productive. With that, Councilmember Winder Newton, I'd be happy to take any questions or comments, but that concludes the presentation on the draft FY25 goals.
Are there any questions for Andrew? If not, we'll move along to Marion.
Excellent, thank you. We will be succinct. There are a lot of numbers up here. Yeah, blow that up a little bit. We're looking at the far right column, and you'll note that this is a normal budgeting year for us. We pretty much click along at this with the same ups and downs in terms of what the budget is reflecting. At this point in the year, we are showing our anticipated new funding for FY25. And so the far right column does show the new funding that we're anticipating with the corresponding work outlined in our annual unified work program. So that's the third part of what we're asking you to review and send out for public comment, which is our goals, our budget, and our unified public work program. So these are the numbers behind the work that's represented in that UPWP. The overall budget increased by just under $1 million. So that's going from the 10.8 to the 11.7. And that's about 9%. And as usual, that increase is primarily in our contracting line, which is that second line there. And that reflects the bulk of the expenses that are associated with all the projects that you've been hearing about today. The majority of our expenditures are in the employee compensation and contractual line together. So you can see that's 10 out of the 11 something million there. And that employee compensation line increases by about 7% to reflect all the possible increases that we will see for next year. We haven't decided on all of those, but that acts as a cap to reflect possible increases for COLA, compensation, benefits, anything that happens in that employee compensation and benefits line. The contractual line shows an increase of $500,000 about. And if we scroll down to the program section of the budget, thank you, I can show you why. So that top section shows our budget by line item, and this is by program. So it's the same 11.8, but divided in terms of the program in which we're working there. In FY24, we completed 3 major projects, and you can see the zeros in our anticipated for next year column reflect the completion of our household travel survey, which I think you'll hear a little bit more about later, the statewide planning grant, statewide SEDS, and Safe Streets for All, which you heard about earlier. So when we complete those, of course, we're not budgeting for them next year. And so as we discussed earlier, we also have the funds for the power district, which are down here on the very bottom line. So we have completed some major projects. We have a new major project for next year. And ongoing major projects are the station area planning there. And so we have contractual money that is in a lot of these projects, and that represents the overall increase there. Our revenues come from federal, state, and local sources. The majority, of course, is coming from federal, from the U.S. Department of Transportation for our planning work. And again, the Unified Planning Work Program, I think, is a great document that really shows the work that we're doing with those federal dollars. The $1 million increase that we talked about right at the beginning that goes from 10.8 to 11.7 really comes from some of the state sources that we're using for the projects that we talked about. We partner with the Utah Department of Transportation, of course, Governor's Office of Planning and Budget, Governor's Office of Economic Opportunity, and we are stewards of the funds that are working on projects like station area planning, the new power district, the local administrative advisor, so forth. So we really are grateful for that partnership and to be stewards of those funds for these big projects. The local funds are providing the required match. Of course, we need a match for our federal funds and support work also that is not covered by the federal grants because our purview is broader than what we have just in our federal grants. We also partner with Mountain Land Association of Governments, UTA, Salt Lake County on local projects, which are in turn financially supported by the cities and counties that we are supporting with planning, technical work, and so forth. So we really are appreciative of so many funds and so many partners in the work that we do. The Budget Committee, as we've talked about, has reviewed these materials a couple of weeks ago, and I am happy to go into all of the weeds for anyone that's interested. I can take questions now. I could take questions anytime. Always available there are so many columns, and I like to show a lot of information, but I won't go into a lot of detail right now unless there are questions.
But I'll note that the information that Marion provided to the Budget Committee, they reviewed and then is sent out in your packets, has all the details, including detailed footnotes that offer explanations. And again, now or at any point as we go forward, either of us, any of us, are happy to take any questions as we go forward.
This is an impressive budget. Thank you for putting that together. Make it what you do with the money you get and the way you accomplish it and the way you keep all these numbers down in there. It's particularly on the supply software and subscriptions. How do you do that? I mean, our city is just bursting at the seams on there because everyone charges these annual fees for all your software all the place, and yours is actually going down over there. I've been really impressed. This is really a good budget. Way to go.
Well, thank you. Excellent.
Thanks, Marion. Are there any other questions? If not, I would move that we release the draft fiscal year 25 WFRC goals, budget, and unified planning work program for public comment.
Is there a second? Moved and seconded that we release the draft of the fiscal year 25 Wasatch Front Goals, budget, and unified planning work program. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you. Appreciate it, Amy. We'll now move to item 7 on our list. We're going to skip 7A with due to the time, and we're going to move down to item 7B and turn the time over to Mayor Troy Walker. Ready.
All right, thank you. I'll be very quick. Just a couple items. The RTP amendment, all the cities are doing a great job getting their active local transportation plans together, and that's moving along nicely. Beehive Walkways, which is an outreach program to look for ways to connect bike routes along the Wasatch Choice Centers. If they haven't reached out to your community, they will. They're moving along, trying to get that done. The Utah Trail Network, as you all know, is about to get its very first round of funding. And there's projects in Davis, Weber, Salt Lake counties, some really cool ones. 39th South Shared Use Path in Salt Lake County, along Beam Creek Trail in Salt Lake County. There's one at 250 North Crossing at SR 108 in Clinton. Three gate trails in Davis and Weber County, and then a connection in Riverton and in Bluffdale to the Jordan River Parkway. So those UDOT's made that recommendation to the Transportation Commission, so we'll see how those projects come out, but there's some cool ones. And then lastly, Bike Month. May, as you know, is Bike Month. And the big event that we try to host here at Wasatch Front and other cities is the Golden Spoke Bike Ride, celebrating the 100 miles of paved trails between Ogden and Provo. That happens on May 11th, and you can ride 100 miles if you want. Or you can find lots shorter routes to do. But if you want information on the Golden Spoke, goldenspoke.net, you can talk to Hugh as well. But the ride's supported by WFRC, MAG, Move Utah, UTA, and the Jordan River Commission and local health departments. So that's one big event for Bike Month, but hopefully you're doing some Bike Month events in your own communities. If you need help with those, let us know. If you have some, please let us know so we can promote it. Thank you.
Any questions? I will point out one thing if you want. You can either get on the front runner station in Utah County or get on the front runner station in Ogden and just take your bike with you and ride all the way down on the train and then get out. I mean, it's one of those, just an idea if anybody wants to.
You can even sit on your bike in the rail.
That's right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, so you don't have to wear a
That's a
helmet.
whole new
I'm just saying.
innovation grant process. Thank you for UTA. Woohoo.
too.
So, hey, we're almost back on schedule.
I'm just
So-
interested that Mayor Burton isn't providing comment on this particular item, given he's very interested in providing comment.
I actually do have a comment I wanted to throw out on that.
Well, we're off schedule now.
On Saturday, May 4th, is going to be a bike with the mayor in West Jordan. And we have a bridge that we're putting over Mountain View Corridor. And we are going to celebrate that opening on that day. And the bicycles will be the first ones to go over that bridge. And you'll be invited to join us. I'll make sure I get the information to you. That's the Saturday prior to the Golden Smoke. So prepare you for it.
I'm just glad I could get you out of your shell and.
I know, I am so
get you to
shy, quiet.
Contribute.
Okay, I need a little help here. We all realize that Gage is kind of an old guy, and I think he's dozed off. So maybe all of us on three can say, Gage, if you're all ready, 1, 2, 3, Gage.
Well, that didn't quite wake me up, but yeah. You have put a lot of people up in this office to sleep, so thank you very much. We're getting a lot done.
I think
Hey,
you referred
Bob,
to
I just
Harvey,
wanted to
right?
Verify. No. Commissioner Harvey's down there doing double duty. So unfortunately, I only have about 10 minutes to 15 minutes before I have to leave for my next meeting. So I'm hoping that's enough time to get you back on schedule, Commissioner.
I appreciate it, Gage.
All right. So let me just be brief here. I'm going to give you just a snippet of what we've been doing with the Wasatch Front Economic Development District. And as far as an update, Marsh is there. I'm assuming she can fill in any of the blanks, answer any questions you may have after the meeting. But working with our comprehensive economic development strategy over this past year, what we've referred to as the SIDS, everybody's familiar with that. I'm assuming everybody had an update on that. Our last meeting has taken the time to go through that full report. But just so everybody's aware, we're really focusing on what we're going to call our anchors that came out of our study. The first being promoting city and the town centers. The study pointed out that town centers and really having a central point to focus for citizens and the public was very important for any developing community, any existing community, any existing cities. The second would be really facilitating economic development capacity, working with EDC Utah, working with the NUEA, working with our development partners in the cities and the other counties. That's what really the development strategy. We're looking at that capacity and what areas we can fill to make sure that the proper businesses go into those locations that make them successful. Third being supporting the human capital development side of this, obviously working with our institutions of higher education, our ATCs. We have to have the workforce in order for them to have any development capacity. I can't say enough about our ATCs in this state, our higher institutions. They are focusing on what programs, what they come out with degrees, with programs that give them opportunities to work in the workforce with high paying jobs. The fourth really is leveraging that diverse business environment. We want to make sure that any business, depending on what that is, has a place in this state, has a place on the Wasatch Front. And those are really our four anchors. I look forward to what comes out of this next year with our economic development district. And we're really looking for prioritization using these four key anchors as we move into 2024, what takes place. So I won't really want to answer any questions since I do have to leave, Bob, but you take it over or Marcia can take in. But thanks for keeping me awake. Be safe driving home.
I appreciate it. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Marcia will be around. Marcia, you want to say something?
No, I'm pointing at Christy, not you, Marcia. Thank you.
Yes, I do.
Okay, I'll be super quick. And try and get you guys out of here close to on time. I just want to quickly give an announcement and a congratulations to the 2024 CDBG grantees for the year. If you'll notice, they're all located in Morgan, Tooele, and Weber counties. Those are the counties that are eligible for funding through the WFRC Small Cities CDBG program. So in Wendover, we're doing phase, I believe, 6 of the water line replacement out to Wendover. It's a long water line to get all the way out to Wendover. And then in Washington Terrace, they're making improvements to Romer Park. In Merritt-Slaterville, they are doing sewer and water installation in a moderate income housing subdivision. And then in Tooele County, Friends of Switch Point, sponsored by Tooele County, is purchasing a vehicle to help with deliveries to and from their food bank. And all of these projects are totaling right around $1 million. And congratulations to those communities. If you have any questions about CDBG, feel free to reach out. Thanks.
Any questions at all on that? Okay, well, we're now moving down to our executive director's report, who has promised me this will be quick.
I only have one thing I'll note today, and that is we skipped item 7A. We'll come back to it at some point, but this is the Utah Moves Comprehensive Transportation Survey. We do this with all of our transportation partners once every 10 years and survey almost 10,000 households around the state who talk about their preferences for transportation and then voluntarily track all of their trips that are being taken within their homes. We use this information to calibrate our travel demand models so that this is part of the science that goes into transportation planning, but also we get really interesting information that comes out of it about people's patterns and about their preferences. We are just starting to dig into that information now. Really interesting stuff. And so as time goes on, we're going to be using that to both inform our planning work and then bring that to you, because I think there's really interesting information for all of us to use at the city, county, and regional and state level as we're doing our planning. So Bert Granberg, where's Bert? Did he leave? There he is. We'll be sharing more about this as we go along. Other than that, Mr. Chair, I'll just say thank you to all of you for your engagement, your leadership, your partnership, your friendship, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, appreciate it. Is there any last questions for Andrew or his staff on anything? A reminder that our next meeting will be on May 23rd, right here at 1:30. Also, as far as any upcoming events, just a quick reminder for any of those that are interested. The air show is at the Hill Air Force Base this year, which is on last weekend of June. Maybe what we can have at our next meeting is have UTA take just a second and talk about all the things that they are doing. There is expected to be 600,000 plus that will be there during that time. And if you've never gone up and seen that, for those of you that may be more to the south of that area, you ought to really take some time and go up. It's actually pretty impressive. So with that, we will adjourn and thank everyone.